Want to get to financial freedom earlier? These are 5 lessons that you need to hear. Each of them is actually a step that you can choose to take today, because if you choose it correctly, you take a step forward. If you choose wrongly, you take a step backwards. And if you want to get to financial freedom early, make the right choices. And if you stay today on video, I've actually a bonus tip for you. So without further ado, let's roll in the intro video. Lesson number 1, defining the problem correctly. Albert Einstein has this saying, if I were given 1 hour to save the planet, I would spend 59 minutes defining the problem and 1 minute resolving it. As you can see over here, defining problem is more important than working on it, because if you define it correctly, the steps to take are effective. If you define it wrongly, you're going around in circles. So let's use an example to illustrate it. Say you have $100,000 that is left behind from your grandfather, and you're thinking, what is the best way to invest it for the highest return? Buy a stock? Not sure how to research. Buy a fund? Is it too risky because you can't really afford to lose this $100,000? Then what about buying a bond, the Singapore Savings Bond? The interest rate is too low, it's not even in inflation, and you can't retire with it. So what is the problem? Is it really which investment to choose? What kind of return it gives you? Or is it something else? The first question to ask is, why can't any of this $100,000 be lost? Not that we want to lose money when it comes to investing, but having that as a constraint really ties up all your possible options. And if you drew deeper, maybe the reason could be the person is not saving much at all. This $100,000 is all he or she has. No wonder there is no ability to take on risk, and no wonder the focus is on highest return, because this $100,000 is the only ticket to retirement. The person does not know how to generate wealth in any other method. So if we probe a bit further, we find out that the person earns $2,500, and because of fixed expenses such as food, transport, obligations, the person is unable to save anything. That is why this $100,000 is the only pot of money there is, and there is nothing else coming in. So if we understand it, the problem actually is income. If income can be increased, that builds on new savings amounts. And when new savings amount builds in, the focus becomes building a total pot with the $100,000 with new incoming monies, and the person is not too concerned that this $100,000 is everything that he or she has. Now, if we find out on the other hand that a person is earning $5,000 a month, but is not saving anything, and does not have that many obligations, he or she has been spending lavishly on lifestyle, then the problem possibly is in expenses. Because $5,000 a month is already above the median income in Singapore. And the first problem to resolve is to ensure that the person understands that $5,000, you need to have the discipline of saving up. And then that feeds on to the total pot of $100,000. Together, it can build a retirement pot that is sizable and not focus the $100,000 to be the ultimate solution. So again, defining the problem correctly removes away all unnecessary shackles and gives the person a direction and a goal to focus at. The second lesson is to start investing early. I've actually covered this topic before with a couple who has retired at the age of 31. Christy and Bryce actually started investing early. And the main part about investing early is not really about the compounding. Of course, that is good. Compounding is the 8th wonder, as what Albert Einstein has mentioned. Which means if you can compound at 5%, $10,000 for 20 years, it will become $26,500. That is good, but the real benefit, in my opinion, of starting early is that you give yourself time to make mistakes. You give yourself more opportunities to see market cycles. And as always, the best way to learn about cycling is to get on a bike and fall. Because no matter how much you hypothesize from the classroom or watch videotapes on how to cycle, you ultimately need to get injured and start toppling down before you really understand the idea of balance. The same logic applies to investing. The more cycles of ups and downs you see, the better trained you are handling your own emotions and ultimately help you become a better investor faster. And once you become a better investor, it ultimately helps you reach your financial freedom targets earlier. Lesson number 3 is to understand that there will always be someone with more. Do you know the reason why high-income earners often feel insufficient financially? The most common emotion that drives that is actually envy. When you're earning this level of salary, your network of friends are also earning this. And therefore, you don't expect a higher lifestyle. But once you progress to a higher level, Everyone around you has an inflated lifestyle and inflated financial expectation. He has bought a new sports car, I should buy one. He's bought a new landed property, I should upgrade too. Avoid making these choices because they eventually shackle you as you climb this hill towards your financial freedom. If you want to get to financial freedom, it is not about being a monk and treat money as secondary. It's about not pegging your happiness to monetary rewards, or at least try to minimize the impact of it. Keep enough savings you have and invest it well, and as long as you move your family each year closer towards retirement, you should feel happy already. Chasing material possessions only slow you towards your financial freedom journey, and that leads on to point number 4. Lesson number 4 is understanding mortgage loan. Why did I pick on mortgage loan to suggest it as a lesson for you? Because mortgage loan is very simply the biggest loan that most people actually have on their books. If you look at this chart over here, a $540,000 loan would incur in 10 years $119,592 in terms of interest. And if you understand this concept that money equals to time, you realize that this $119,000 is actually a drag in terms of your time that you need to reach towards financial freedom. Robert Kiyosaki has mentioned before, a house is actually a liability. No doubt it can appreciate in value over time, but if you stay in it, there's no way that you can monetize it, and you actually have to pay expenses like property taxes to continue staying in that place. So if you do the equation correctly, you realize that if you stay in a smaller house with a smaller mortgage loan, you actually find the route to financial freedom a lot easier. Lesson number 5 is actually lifestyle inflation, and if any of the points above have resonated with you, smash your like button. It's taken our team hours to prepare this content to share with you. And as always, share this video also with anyone who's keen about reaching financial freedom. What I see in many of my private clients is a family expense of at least $15,000 a month. And when I look at my own 2021 total expenses, it is hovering between $12,000 to $13,000 also. And that doesn't include business expenses when I bring in people on board into the team, as well as taxes that I need to pay. Lifestyle inflation happens when you want to eat better, travel better, and stay at a better place. It is quite possibly the number one killer towards many attaining their own financial freedom. And if you are someone at the start of career, I have something to share with you. You may be thinking that you are unable to save much with your current salary, and you're thinking, if you get to a higher salary level, you get promoted, naturally you are able to save a much better ratio. That may not be true, because once you get promoted, your expectations on lifestyle also increase. So instead of putting the problem to future, look at your current expense ratio. What can be trimmed down further? What can be done today? Because if you're able to save something with a small amount, and when you earn more, that habit carries with you, and you're able to save a much bigger amount when you have a bigger salary. And since you stayed to here, I have a last bonus point for you. That is, financial freedom is largely dependent on your expenses. And your expenses is something that you can control and you can decide. So if you see the equation correctly, financial freedom is a journey that you actually have full control over. Make the right decisions from lessons you learned today. And as always, if you benefited from this video, smash the like button. And I'll highly recommend to check out this previous video I've done before on 8 signs that you will have enough for retirement. With that, I'll sign up from here and see you there. Take care and goodbye.